Oh, right. We are back.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!
This time for
special episode of the Last American Podcast. We decided to tackle a single subject this time.
Yeah.
And we decided to go over, is marriage worth it?
Or just is what's going on?
What is marriage?
What is
is it worth it?
I think it's about time I ask her a very important question. Bobby, the ring, please.
Oh my god!
The Last American Podcast. 2023 in America specifically, and we're gonna break down what's going on, what we think.
Will you marry me?
So we're gonna start off with the idea that you can get married, and then you think it's going to end, right? You're like, oh, I'm gonna die, and then like, all right, peace out, right? But then some people are like, no, we're gonna be married in heaven. And you're like, wait a second.
Well, that would first assume that you guys are both the same religion.
Yeah.
Nobody's done any of like cardinal sins that are going to get you sent to a bad place.
Right.
And then on top of it, you're gonna
That's
have
actually-
you're gonna have some chick nagging you
Yeah.
the whole time in your afterlife.
God.
You're gonna start nagging about this, aren't you?
I do not nag!
Dude, like there's gonna be, I mean, you were promised. I mean, if we were Muslim,
Yeah.
you get like 40 virgins, but then
Yeah.
it's like, or you're married in eternity with like the same chick. Like,
Yeah, it's crazy. You just blew my mind just right now when you said if one of you went to hell, one of you went to heaven, like
Yeah.
would you still be married?
Married in eternity,
like,
yeah.
Like you're like, oh, hey, that's what's going on down there.
Yeah, I'm sure you can't talk. That'd be kind of a bummer in heaven. Yeah, I wonder how that would
No,
work.
I'm sure Satan would like phone her in and like be like, oh, this is annoying as hell.
Yeah, that seems horrible.
Your wife's calling again.
Your wife keeps calling over and over. You had 47 missed calls from your wife in hell.
Another part of it is there's just so many parts to just before any of the other ideas about marriage. Just like you don't necessarily have to lose friends, but the wife takes a lot more of your time.
Yeah.
And you don't get to do as much fun stuff, and you have to ask permission to do random shit that you normally always do.
Lie about how many beers you've drank.
And you have to lie constructively.
That's a very good question. How old are you?
I'm 29.
What year were you born?
1977.
When did you graduate high school?
94.
When did you turn 40?
2017.
Junior high crush?
Kurt Cameron.
Prom theme?
Motown Philly, Boys to Men.
What movie did you lose your virginity at?
Arachnophobia.
Theater or drive-in?
What's a drive-in?
Of course.
Or correctly, as I would like to put it, correctly lie about stuff that you're trying to accomplish.
His form of lying, by the way, is just don't give the full situation.
No, you have to
bits and pieces of it.
Like, you have to build it up, it's like a symphony. It's kind of crescendo into what you're trying to accomplish.
Or you could live a life in 2023 where you don't have to lie. You could go get really drunk whenever you want. You could go do whatever you want. You could go hook up with whatever people, animals, whatever.
I
you're
was
into.
already 22. I understand this
Yeah,
idea.
but
Like,
you got your rest of your life ahead of you. My dad was newly single after my mother passed away, and they were raging harder than I raged when I was 22.
It's
and
hard.
16.
So what was that you just did?
That was some speed.
In their
Even-
mid-60s.
It's hard to even imagine it. Like, just Dave on the red.
But it's kind of cool. I mean, you got to think. So it's like at that point in your life, everybody's saved up money. You're all retired. Nobody has to go to work. It's like summer break forever.
Yeah.
And,
Okay. Yes. It's well. There's so many different parts about like even people that aren't married still like are off the reservation. We have several different friends that are in various situations that I wouldn't consider a marriage. And they're still like, once you have a kid, it automatically your life becomes complicated, marriage or no marriage. And so the marriage just solidifies the contract for the wife, really. Like, it's really for them to smash in your face over and over again. Like,
you're really not selling me on
uh,
you're really not selling. I mean, like I said, I'm I work as an accountant. I'm a huge numbers guy, and I mean the first thing to me is
okay. Let's get into let's get into the numbers.
Okay, we're getting to numbers. I mean the first thing is in America the divorce rate is 50%.
Yeah.
So any wedding you go to at any time,
Right.
you go to 2 weddings, there's a chance one of them's going to fail. So statistically, I mean, if I got in my car and there was a 50% chance I was going to crash my car, I wouldn't be very excited about driving the car. And then once you go on to second marriages, there's a 70% chance of failure. 70% is a huge...
Well, that's because you already jumped out of one car. What's the difference between 2 cars? Like,
and it also goes into like meeting people in free life, and it's like, or in real life, and it's like, okay, if somebody comes from a family with a divorced household, you're statistically like 80%. If both people come from divorced households, your stats are 80 to 90% that your marriage will fail. You know, and I believe most people get married in the first 3 to 4 years, and then most weddings or most marriages fail in the first 3 to 4 years. So it's like the honeymoon phase is over, and then you're like, wow, I've got to spend the rest of my life with the person. And it doesn't matter, you know, any of my friends, you know, or anything, spending that much time with somebody, people are going to get on your nerves. It doesn't matter who it is, you know.
That's true.
So then it's like, but then you can't get away from it, and you're just getting slightly more.
Yeah, it starts to snowball. So let's get into the ideas. Well, the contract of marriage, like the state gets involved. The incentives are there's a tax break. Your Social Security can be enhanced by having someone else that has better credit, insurance, access to benefits from your wife or husband, you know, if they have retirement or some other, if they have health insurance that it could include you, retirement, hospital complications. If you have a heart attack, you don't have to be like, who's this person? It's my wife, and they get to go with you in the emergency room, you know, and then inheritance is a big one. You don't have to like be in the will. Like if you don't have a will, you just get the money. Just straight up.
Yeah.
Like,
give me the money. Give me the money.
So
okay.
And usually men die before women, so it's a big incentive for them.
So that's why most women, and going back to statistics, only 19% of men 18 to 35 wanted to get married, where 37% of women 18 to 35 wanted to get married. So it's mostly women trying to secure the bag when you die.
Yeah, it's
it's like what's going on here.
You know, like there are some rare cases where you marry into the Heinz ketchup family, like our former Vice President Al Gore. You know, like where he comes up super heavy on.
Well, I mean that's what I'm looking for. I mean, if I had to have a partner, like I don't want to work. You know,
I don't want to work. That's amazing.
What I've seen in you know, in my personal life is most women I've met immediately, and I don't want to use the term free ride because they do provide services, but you know, like you know, but there's a lot of people that you know just are like, okay, you know, I want you to be the provider, I want you to take care of me, I want you to buy me a nice car, and I'm like, well, if I stay single, I could have a nice car and a boat, and just have beautiful women come in and out of my life, and it's a party forever, you know. Whereas when you marry someone, you know, it's kind of like nobody wants to buy a used car, you know, and as women like lose their attractiveness in age, you know, so the more money you're spending, and you're like, wow, this chick doesn't look like how she looked when she was 25 at 35, and when she's 45, she definitely doesn't look like she's 25. And when she's 65, but at that time, it's like nobody wants to go out and buy a 65-year-old BMW. You know, people go out and buy a brand new BMW for a reason. You know, men are attracted to beauty.
All right, let's get out of the Sodom and Gomorrah section of this.
This country is going straight to hell.
And then, there's obviously religious components to this. People that grow up Catholic or Protestant or Muslim or Sikh or whatever. It's like historical. It's like part of the religion where it's a basic sacrament. You get for Catholics we get baptized, then we get communion, then we have confirmation, then we have marriage, right? So it's like one of the sacraments. So it's like a part of the religion. And, everyone's already done it, so it's not like a mystery that you do it, right? Like, it's just like everyone's doing it supposedly. But now we have a bunch of a-holes like Joe Biden, who's a clown, and he has clown children, and they're Catholic.
Well,
they're doing crack and stealing money from countries.
Why do atheists get married? That's my biggest thing is, like, once you get away from the religious aspect of it.
I have no idea. Like, besides, here's the next topic. Why is the state involved at all? Like, what are we doing here?
The state's involved mainly for the tax benefits.
But why?
Because
why does the state want to give tax benefits to married people? Why does it
That's
care?
a good point. You'd think they would care less, but
because they could tax you more. Like, why are we giving them a tax break?
Yeah, I think that was part of the American dream back in the day. So it was like, okay, you form a household, you have to take on children.
It's probably because they thought that you would stay capitalist and not communist.
Yeah,
but now that they're like, you know what, we want everyone to become communist, so we don't want anyone to get married. So then all these women just rack up their credit card bills, and then say the state has to save them, and then everyone gets free money, and then it's basically the pandemic all over again.
Loose concept there, but yeah, I see where you're going.
Yeah, so that's a whole and the state really makes it arduous on the men, right? With all the contract is mainly why men don't want to get married.
Well, yeah, the contract itself is, it's just like at any point
half your stuff.
And she could go out
half.
How many more great men are going to get chopped in half before we do something?
And cheat on you, and you lose half. You could get screwed up.
You could be. You had a nice house.
You could be the you could be the nicest guy ever, and she could go out and cheat on you. She could beat you, and you would still lose half. And she is like, from what I understand, in most custody battles, like they always go for the mother. Yeah. So it's like, okay, like I don't really see what you have to stand there aside from a depreciating used car. Right. I really don't see the value in that to me, but at the same time, like if I was in my mid-50s and I was going to marry a 25-year-old woman, then like
there's definitely you mentioned children definitely make the complication more complicated, because you're like people have been not married and like had kids and it's been fine, like Elon Musk or Gene Simmons from Kiss. He famously literally had a girlfriend for 25 years, has all his kids, and people have done it, right? And at 25 years, there's no difference between being married and not married. You're just together, right?
I think you're I'm not sure when common law
it's like 7 years or whatever, and so like it's a complicating factor. And then the what happens is later is like your kids ask you like, why aren't you married? And then it becomes weird, and then your wife doesn't have your last name because that's like a part of marriage. Well, but then you
have the same thing when you get divorced, though. Or
that's another thing. It's like when women don't take your last name, and you're like, why are we even getting married? Because that's the whole point, is to have one name.
Or the hyphen name is a big deal now too.
Yeah, I would talk more crap about that, except for Europeans have a lot of that going on. They have like stacked names, like 25 names.
Yeah, but
and my full name is Carlos Sainz Vázquez de Castro, Cenamor, Rincón, Rebollo, Virto, Moreno, de Aranda, Don Perú, Riagoitia, Pérez del Puga.
Yeah, I mean that's to me just isn't a huge benefit.
Well, yeah, it used to be a survival strategy.
Well, it used to be your kids would be ridiculed if it was like you were a bastard child,
right? And like the word bastard child was bantied, literally was everyday use.
You got to imagine that, by the time you get to middle school, 1 out of every 2 kids is coming from the parents aren't together anyways, and some kids are already in the ends of second marriage.
The word bastard child was probably the best because it kept people getting married, and the bastard thing mainly meant that the 2 parents that had you are together.
My parents got married because they were pregnant.
Not necessarily that you were conceived before or after marriage. It's mainly that the 2 people are together and they're the people that had you. Whereas a bastard child is like when the person that conceived you is gone, and now you have like
Yeah.
a different dad or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like.
Well, it's, any divorce situation.
Yeah,
step-dad
So,
situation,
but now
anything
no
like
one
that.
says that anymore. So that's like a thing. So it used to be a survival strategy for more than one thing. Like when you were farming, you used to have your
Yeah.
wife and your kids were like raking.
Yeah,
and,
you,
like,
you were
palm
building. You were
planting.
building a family
Yeah.
where it's like that's kind of
the
gone.
Amish love kids. Dude.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
build those houses in 10 minutes, dude. They need those. They
make great fireplaces.
labor.
Yeah, and
So-
it's like that's kind of gone. So
Yeah.
it's like okay, so it's like you're not building that.
Yeah, and they
going
used
back
to-
to religious too.
Yeah.
Again, like Adam and Eve weren't married.
Right.
Like the OG
Well, it's
single people.
complicated. He came from her, right? Like he made her God made her out of his rib, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know if they needed to be married. If he's like he is her, like. It's
Well,
so
I mean,
weird.
it's just funny because the very first
And she
relationship.
screwed him over, by the way.
Oh yeah, that's I'm letting you know that you're treading in murky waters, but
Well,
it's like I said, it's funny to me that the very first, I'm not a biblical scholar,
Yeah.
but the very first
yeah.
wedding, or not wedding, but the very first couple and relationship that we're all created from in the Bible, it doesn't speak of marriage, and then marriage comes further down the road. And I'd like
Yeah.
to learn more of like when
it started.
like when did it start? Like why couldn't you just have a partner for your life?
Uh-huh.
And nobody thought that was weird. And then like when was it like we need to do a ceremony?
It definitely was a religious thing. Like it probably happened in all different religions. Like the Norse religions, like the Vikings had them, the Greeks had it. Like before the Jews, like a lot of people have been doing this forever. And including the Native Americans had marriages,
Yeah.
right? Like they fucking they'll do a bunch of peyote and like send the person off. The woman always had to be a virgin, which is another part of it.
Well, that was with Muslim religion too, I believe?
a lot of them in Africa and all over the place, and including some in Europe. It used to be used for strengthening alliances, maintaining wealth, solidarity with social class. You would strengthen your social class. You could like marry, and then you become a name, and then like your name like would be like
Yeah, but that
a
doesn't
thing.
exist.
Yeah,
Like nobody's gonna go
yeah.
and be like.
Well, like the only names that still exist are like Rockefeller
Yeah.
or J.P. Morgan or something like that.
You know what's funny is I actually
Vanderbilt.
I was just at a wedding.
all the names on your streets
yeah.
that were like
You know what's funny is I was just at a wedding 2 weeks ago. Never been to a Jewish wedding before, and they said something in the service, and I'm not sure if it was Justice Church or all Jews, but they said the bride had to take a blood test, and otherwise the church wouldn't marry her to confirm she was a Jew, and they would only do a two Jew getting married thing.
Two Jew.
But I just thought it was really weird because I was like, man, if you were doing this in any other light, this would be considered wildly offensive.
Outside of Indian gaming, where they like literally test your blood to see if you get money for the casino.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, why can't I identify as an Indian?
Blood quantum. Yeah.
Why can't my wife and I identify as an Indian? And
We got Elizabeth Warren trying to get on that like, Indian gaming money. So and older marriages are on the rise right now. People are trying to wait, and it's mainly just young women trying to, I don't know how to put this, whore it up.
Talking about whores, people. They're everywhere.
Through their 20s, and finally on the internet, I'm starting to see a lot of guys being like, I don't want.
Yeah, someone like a second.
It's like a chick that's like ran through 100 million times.
I think that's a big
including Logan Paul, who's like going into some fight, and the component, this fighter, is literally trolling the chick he's supposed to marry by like posting every dude and like. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like 1,000 pictures of different dudes that she's banged. I'm like, bro.
Yeah.
This is out of control.
Yeah, that would make you really mad.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it is funny because I feel like too, like most women when I was younger in our early 20s were like never getting married, and then once their looks begin to fade, and then they hit their early 30s and they're really kind of starting to go downhill, and they're like, all right, it's time to get married. And it's like, I see the guys they marry, and I'm just like, and like I said, as an accountant and a finance guy, I love looking at numbers, and it's like, 1 out of 2. It's like you see them get married, and I'm like, this guy is going down a slippery slope, and I wish him the best.
Yeah.
but statistically 1 out of 2 are going to fail, so it's like a high probability.
Okay, here's the upside. What would the solution to this? Is there a solution? What do we think? Like, what do we think about
I mean,
it?
you could just have. I mean, if you're really just with a partner for 7 years or however long it is, and
Like,
you
what
just
if
become
what if
common
the, what
law
if
married,
what if the government wasn't involved and it was just like a religious ceremony, just like communion or whatever?
Yeah.
Like,
I
would
mean, that seems-
you like be like, oh, this is not a big deal?
Well, I don't really think it's me personally as a single man. I never just grew up. Both my parents always told me.
Your parents were married, by the way.
Yeah,
And
my
they
parents
told
didn't
him
stay
to get
together,
married.
and
By the
no,
way.
they told me as a kid. They said, "Don't get married. It's not fun."
Literally, his mom multiple times has stepped aside and be like, "I'm just joking. I really want Gary to get married."
They told me during all the bad parts of their marriage, and they stuck it out and they made it through.
Yeah.
And they told me the whole time, they're like, "Don't do it, don't do it." And I saw that as a kid, and I, at the time, and even growing up as an adult, like, I just wanted to pursue fun and happiness, and it doesn't look like it looks like something you have to put a lot of work into, and it looks like a lot of nagging. You have to lie about how many beers you've drank. And it just doesn't look like something that, you know, I personally would like to do. But I could be wrong. You know, Arthur could pull this video up 20 years from now and I'm married with 8 kids. You know, you never know what's going to happen.
No, it just becomes complicated when you have kids. Like, it's easy to say marriage sucks, then you're like, well, if I want to have a kid,
But most people
it becomes
accidentally have kids.
weird. And like, is my kid gonna be weird if we're not married? And like, it just becomes a whole thing. And like, how many kids could you have before you get married?
Well, how many
like,
kids do you have?
yeah, like it just gets weird when you do, you have kids and it's just, you're not married, and like, what do you tell the kids? Like, when does it go right? Or like, how long can you keep up this charade?
Well, I mean, that's the thing is a lot of people quit. So, I mean, a lot of people have a kid and they suffer for, however long. And then,
you suffer for the rest of your life.
eventually, I mean, because there's a 50% divorce rate.
Yeah.
So it's like they're unhappy for an ungiven amount of time. And they're like, okay, I can't keep this going for the kids. The kids will both be better off.
Whatever
if we
happened
lose-
to people just suffering? Like, just
My parents
ran-
suffered through the whole thing, and they specifically told me not to get married. I watched my parents make it through the end, resolve every conflict.
By the way, your sister is on that trip too.
Yeah, we saw it, and then we were both
his
told.
sister heckled him
Yeah,
when he was like on the borderline of doing something crazy, and Garrett did not appreciate the commentary.
but she was right. I'd like to thank my sister through the internet for saving me.
Oh my god,
to
it
have
was
this-
so great. So like, is there what's the silver lining to this? Like, it's
I mean, so like, let's look. So if Adam and Eve
Yeah.
just had a kid,
yeah. Which
The-
they obviously did because we are here.
yeah,
Humanity
but that
exists.
first kid didn't have the idea of this socially constructed thing of like, are you guys married? Like he knew they knew they were a couple.
Well, they were mostly talking about how God threw them out of the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
And how Eve messed up everything.
But I'm really
Loser! You're a loser! Are you feeling sorry for yourself? Well, you should be, because you are dirt! You make me sick, you big baby! Baby want a bottle? A big dirt bottle?
that's my biggest question. I hope like one of the 12 people that watch our show will be like, hey,
Yeah.
this is how marriage actually started. Because it's funny because it started in almost every continent
Yeah.
separately,
Yeah.
and then it eventually became like a world thing, and
Well,
then now it's become like it's gone from this religious event to this like atheist expensive celebration.
Yeah, it's weird that like atheists and like weird like
They like to celebrate Christmas. They like to get married.
like
but then,
the
like,
gay
they don't.
people couldn't wait to get married. I don't know why. Like there's
Those seem to be. I wish I would have looked up that statistic before. I wonder what % of gay people get divorced.
just everyone's trying to do everything. And now it's crazy. It's like people are trying to marry a broomstick or I'm a woman dressed like a man trying to marry a man.
And
dressed
what if
like
they have a
woman.
kid? That's not the kid's not gonna think that's weird because their parents are married and like it's okay. They come from a stable household.
It's really crazy.
I mean, life happens and people, things happen all together. I mean, I'm not friends. I can't say I'm not friends, but I don't really talk to my best friend from first grade anymore just because
Right.
we grew apart as people,
Right.
and throughout this whole life, we're constantly growing, and some people do find somebody to grow with, and they have a whole experience. But most people kind of go in and out of different phases. You know, I used to be a punk rocker when I was in my teens. You know, and now it's the country music. You know, you change as a person as you grow up. You know?
It's a weird thing, and the whole premise of marriage is an alliance in a way, in that you have kids and they're part of your tribe, and that you're the leader of the tribe, and you don't want your tribe to betray you, which is like
that's a really crazy way of looking at it. I've never thought of it like that. Yeah, that's crazy. So think about how many people are, and that explains why society's so angry too, because like people are getting betrayed by their tribe. I can't tell you how many
many people being like burning their wife and like leaving.
I've met so many people that are like, I don't talk to my parents. Like I just had a friend, I'm not gonna mention his name, and I've been friends with his parents since we were little kids.
Yeah.
Ran into his mom, and they're like, he doesn't talk to us anymore.
Jesus Christ.
He met this girl that the family didn't like, and he decided to abandon his family.
Another point for arranged marriages, where you just like, this is a parent's roof.
You know, and it's funny because when you look at arranged marriages, they actually have a high success rate, and it's like two people are going in it with the idea of like,
this is what it is.
This is what it is, and we're gonna get through this, and we have the same religious beliefs, and like
it's like high school. It's like you have to go. Like that's it. Like what are you gonna be miserable? So what? Who cares? Like you have to be in it. Like,
well, same deal. It's like people went to high school and they cut class. Same way people get divorced. You know, and it just
well, it just becomes a different thing when you could choose to go to high school as opposed to mandatory. Like the arranged marriage, like you mandatory going high school versus like asking a 16-year-old, do you want to go to high school? And he says no, and you're like, okay, I guess.
I mean, that's pretty chill. I mean, honestly, I'd say it's probably 50-50, just like, does your kid want to go to school, or do you stick it out through a marriage, you know? And it's like, you know, that's the numbers are a huge thing for me, and that's why I don't buy people very nice wedding gifts, because I'm like, they're going to get divorced. And I mean, like I said, it's a flip of a coin, you know. It's literally 50-50, and
it's also getting worse.
Yeah, and it's getting worse, you know. I mean,
lawyers are making a lot of money.
Yeah, dude, divorce lawyers are where the money is at right now. You know what's funny is I just saw some lady
and
divorce real estate agent. I saw
couples therapist is basically just a breakup market. Like it's not even the point is to break up the couple.
Yeah,
so they get another couple going.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see how that's a thing, you know. I mean, and there's so much industry based around it that makes people feel like they need to do this big event. And what's really funny is I've gone to a couple weddings where people have spent well over $250K, and it's this big celebration, and it's kind of boring. And then I had a friend who was he was terminal with cancer, and he was gonna marry this girl, and super last minute, everybody went down to the beach. They just did it on the beach with folding chairs. Everybody came in within like 2 or 3 days, and it was like the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my life. And it was really funny because he was terminal with cancer, and I knew they were gonna make it to the end.
Yeah,
you know, and it was like, wow, like like there was no doubt in my mind. I was like, these people are gonna make it through marriage, you know.
No,
and it's like when I look at two healthy people, I'm like, ooh.
I've been to some marriages that I knew that these people were gonna make it. And I've been to, I've not been to them, but I've seen marriages or like, you know, whatever. And I'm like, I don't know if this is gonna work out.
I mean, I feel like chicks just say yes when you get proposed to. Like, you rarely see a no video. I feel like if you
run away in the wedding,
I think we should do a special episode where I just get a ring and we'll just go propose to random women on the beach, and I bet you I'd get a few yeses.
The size Rocky guy.
Yeah, dude, we're gonna try rock, you know, and like, you know, chicks will. I feel like people just say yes. You can't say no.
Yeah.
Have a bunch of people standing around taking photos, like.
Yeah, it's
you're just societally pressured into just saying yes. That's just how I feel that people.
Well, there's a lot more single women now that are desperate. So yeah, this is the climate. Like this is gonna be the most. They said that wine sales is gonna go through the roof because there's gonna be so many old women that don't have anything going on. They don't have kids. They don't have nothing, and they just drink wine and sit there with their 7 cats. Hey now.
7 cats. What?
So
I mean, honestly, I think I'd rather have a dog than children, but that's just me on my personal life, you know. So.
Yeah, you have a lot of things going on inside your body that are blood related.
Yeah.
He's worried about it.
Rabies.
Your dad overcome it. Anyways, that's a pretty good episode.
Yeah, it's been a good one. Let us know what you think in the comments.
Yeah, we'll talk to you
Take
next
care, stay safe, and don't get married.
time. Or do. Who knows?
Or do.